A shy girl gets a breast screening. Shockingly, her doctor's a young millionaire and falls in love. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get started with today's story. A shy girl goes for a routine breast screening, and shockingly, her doctor turns out to be a young millionaire who falls in love with her. But how did this ordinary visit turn into something extraordinary? Let's find out. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get started with today's story. A shy girl goes for a routine breast screening, and shockingly, her doctor turns out to be a young millionaire who falls in love with her. But how did this ordinary visit turn into something extraordinary? Let's find out. After the screening, Emma quickly gathered her things and left the room. The cool air of the hallway felt like a relief, but it did nothing to ease the pounding in her chest. She walked down the sterile corridor, her mind racing. What had just happened? She couldn't stop thinking about Dr. Liam Parker. He was calm, collected, and unbelievably attractive. She kept reminding herself that he was just her doctor, but the moment they had shared felt different. Emma had no idea why she was so drawn to him. It wasn't just his looks, though he certainly had those. It was something in his demeanor, his kindness, his ease, the way he had reassured her through the appointment. But what did it mean? She wasn't someone who could afford to get caught up in thoughts like that. She had bills to pay, rent due, and a future that seemed uncertain at best. Later that afternoon, Emma found herself walking out of the building, her head spinning. She tried to push the thoughts of Dr. Parker out of her mind, but it was harder than she expected. The whole experience had been so different from any doctor's visit she had ever had. Most of the time, doctors didn't really care about their patients. They were there to do their job and move on. But Dr. Parker had made her feel seen. She shook her head as she reached her car, the familiar weight of her life waiting for her to return. As she drove back to her small apartment, she couldn't help but wonder if she had imagined the whole thing. The next few days passed in a blur. Emma focused on work, trying not to think about her unexpected encounter with Dr. Parker. But everywhere she went, little reminders of him seemed to pop up. She had heard his name mentioned in passing by a regular at the cafe, and she couldn't shake the feeling that he was someone important. She tried not to dwell on it, but the curiosity kept eating at her. Then, a week later, Emma found herself back at the medical center for a follow-up appointment. She had barely thought about Dr. Parker since that day, but as soon as she walked into the waiting room, she felt a familiar sense of nervousness. She checked in at the front desk, then took a seat, tapping her foot restlessly. The moment she saw the name on the appointment card, Dr. Liam Parker, she felt a small jolt of surprise. Emma's heart skipped a beat as she tried to calm her nerves. This was it. The moment she had been dreading and anticipating all at once. She glanced around the room, trying to act casual, but everything about this situation felt off. What was she supposed to do now? Just go in, be professional, and get it over with? That's what she told herself. But even as she thought that, her stomach twisted in knots. Finally, the nurse called her name. Emma Brooks. She stood up quickly, trying not to show her anxiety, and followed the nurse down the hall. She couldn't help but wonder if Dr. Parker would remember her. Would he mention their first appointment? Would he think she was strange for being nervous around him? Emma tried to shake off the thoughts, but they kept coming back. As they entered the room, she took a deep breath, steadying herself. Dr. Parker looked up from his desk as she entered, his gaze immediately meeting hers. "Emma," he said with a smile, his tone as warm and kind as she remembered. "It's good to see you again. How have you been?" He stood up to greet her, extending his hand. Emma hesitated for just a second before shaking it, surprised by how genuine his touch felt. "I've been okay," she said, her voice sounding softer than usual. She quickly cleared her throat, trying to push past her nerves. "Just the usual. Work life." Dr. Parker's smile softened as he listened, and Emma felt the warmth of his attention wash over her. She had expected him to be distant, as most doctors were, but there was something different about him. He didn't treat her like a patient. He treated her like a person, and that was what made this so difficult. She wasn't used to this kind of kindness, and she wasn't sure how to handle it. "I'm glad to hear that," he said, sitting back down at his desk and motioning for her to take a seat. "I know these things aren't always easy, but I'm glad you're taking care of yourself." Emma nodded, feeling a bit overwhelmed. She had no idea why his words meant so much to her. "Thank you," she said quietly, almost too softly. She took a seat across from him, trying to hide the unease she felt bubbling up inside. This wasn't supposed to be a big deal. It was just a follow-up appointment. She was here to get through it and leave. As the appointment continued, Emma tried her best to focus on the medical details, but Dr. Parker's presence was hard to ignore. She couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching her closely, and she wondered if he was picking up on her nervousness. Her heart raced as she forced herself to stay calm. What was happening here? Why was this so different from every other visit she'd ever had? By the time the appointment was over, Emma was more confused than ever. She stood up, grabbing her things, and Dr. Parker walked her to the door. "Take care of yourself, Emma," he said with a gentle smile. "I'll see you again soon." Emma nodded, feeling a strange mix of emotions as she stepped out of the room. She couldn't help but feel that something had shifted, but she had no idea what it meant. Her mind was spinning as she made her way back to the car, unsure of what to think or how to feel. What had just happened? As she drove back home, Emma realized that she couldn't stop thinking about Dr. Parker. The more she tried to push him out of her mind, the more he seemed to invade her thoughts. Why was this bothering her so much? She had no reason to be this caught up in someone she barely knew. But deep down, Emma knew that this wasn't just about the appointment. It was about something bigger, something that had started with a simple, unexpected encounter. And no matter how much she tried to ignore it, she knew this was just the beginning of something far more complicated than she could have ever imagined. It had been 2 weeks since Emma's second appointment with Dr. Liam Parker, and though she had tried to move on with her routine life, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Every time she passed a medical center or saw a doctor on TV, her mind wandered back to the man who had made her feel so seen. Dr. Parker wasn't just a doctor. He wasn't just the man who had calmly walked her through her screening and given her advice. He was someone who, somehow, had become a part of her thoughts. She knew it was crazy. She had no reason to be so caught up in him. He was a successful, wealthy doctor, and she was just a waitress. But every time she thought about him, it was as if she could feel a connection, a bond that neither of them had acknowledged, but that was slowly pulling them together. Emma had tried to ignore the feelings. She had her own life to focus on. Rent was due, the cafe where she worked was struggling, and her dreams of becoming an artist felt further away than ever. She had no time to think about a man, especially not one as important as Dr. Parker. But no matter how hard she tried, her thoughts kept drifting back to him. Why couldn't she let it go? Was it because he had been kind to her when so many others hadn't? Or was it simply the way he made her feel? That strange mix of warmth and something deeper? Then, out of the blue, she got a message. It was from Dr. Parker. At first, Emma stared at the text on her phone, her heart racing. Was this real? She hadn't expected to hear from him again, especially after their brief appointments. But there it was, in plain text. "Emma, I wanted to invite you to an art charity event I'm hosting this weekend. I remembered you mentioned an interest in art, and I thought it might be something you'd enjoy. Let me know if you're interested." Liam, her fingers hovered over the keyboard, unsure of what to say. This was unexpected, to say the least. She had never imagined that Dr. Parker, the millionaire doctor, would remember a small detail like her love for art. And yet, here he was, inviting her to an event that could potentially change everything. Was he being polite? Or was there something more to this? Emma didn't know, but she couldn't ignore the thrill that surged through her chest as she typed her reply. "Thank you for the invite, Dr. Parker. I would love to attend." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The event was held at one of the most beautiful galleries Emma had ever seen. The walls were lined with stunning pieces of art, and the space was buzzing with well-dressed people laughing and chatting over glasses of wine. Emma felt completely out of place, her dress simple compared to the elegant gowns and tailored suits around her. But there was no turning back now. She had come to see the art, yes, but also to see Dr. Parker again. She glanced around nervously, wondering if he would even remember her, let alone notice her in this crowd. And then, she saw him. Dr. Liam Parker stood across the room, talking to a group of people, but the moment his eyes met hers, Emma felt her heart skip a beat. He excused himself from the conversation and made his way over to her, his presence commanding yet gentle. "Emma," he said with a warm smile. "I'm glad you could make it." He reached out to shake her hand, and this time, Emma felt more confident as she shook it. His touch was just as steady and reassuring as it had been during her screening. "Thank you for inviting me," she replied, her voice soft but genuine. Liam smiled, and Emma noticed the way his eyes softened when he looked at her. There was something different about him here, away from the sterile, professional setting of the medical center. He wasn't the aloof doctor she had met before. He was more relaxed, more approachable. As they stood together, chatting about the art on the walls and the event itself, Emma found herself more at ease. The nervousness that had plagued her before seemed to melt away in his presence. They moved to a quieter corner of the gallery, where Liam shared his thoughts on the pieces of art, his passion for creativity evident in his voice. Emma couldn't help but feel drawn to him, not just because of his wealth or status, but because of his genuine interest in the things that mattered to her. It was the first time in a long time that someone had really listened, really taken the time to understand her. She felt herself opening up to him, sharing stories of her dreams, her struggles, and her love for painting. As she spoke, she realized how rare it was for her to express herself so freely. Liam listened intently, his gaze focused on her as she spoke. "You're really talented, Emma," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "I hope you're still pursuing your dream of becoming an artist. I think the world would benefit from seeing your work." His words took her by surprise. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, and for the first time, she felt like she might be on the right path, even if it was just the beginning. As the evening went on, they continued to talk, and Emma found herself growing more comfortable around him. By the time the event was winding down, Liam looked at her with a soft smile. "I'm glad you came tonight," he said. "I hope we can do this again sometime." Emma nodded, her heart fluttering in her chest. "I'd like that," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. As she left the gallery later that night, Emma couldn't help but wonder what this all meant. Was this the start of something more? Was Liam truly interested in her, or was he just being kind? Either way, she couldn't deny the connection she felt. And for the first time in a long time, she felt like her life might be heading in a new direction, one that she had never imagined before. It had been a few days since the art charity event, and Emma couldn't stop thinking about Dr. Liam Parker. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his smile, his warm gaze as he listened to her talk about her dreams. It wasn't just that he was handsome, or even that he was a millionaire. It was the way he made her feel like she mattered. For someone like her, someone who had spent most of her life feeling invisible, his attention was a gift she wasn't sure how to handle. The days after the event had been a whirlwind of emotions. She told herself it was nothing, that she was overthinking things, but deep down, she knew something had shifted. She couldn't shake the feeling that her connection with Liam was more than just a passing encounter. That afternoon, Emma was working her shift at the cafe when she saw the familiar face walk through the door. It was Liam. Her heart skipped a beat as he stepped up to the counter, smiling as their eyes met. "Hey, Emma," he said, his voice calm but with a touch of warmth. "I was in the area and thought I'd stop by. I hope it's okay." Emma blinked, surprised but also pleased. "Of course," she said, her voice sounding a little too high-pitched as she fumbled with the register. "What can I get you today?" Liam's smile softened as he took a step closer. "Just a coffee, please," he said, casually, as if it was the most natural thing in the world to drop by her workplace. Emma quickly prepared the coffee, her hands trembling slightly as she worked. Was he here to see her? Or was this just another random visit? She couldn't help but wonder. As she handed him the coffee, Liam's gaze lingered on her for a moment longer than usual. "I've been thinking about what you said the other night at the gallery," he said quietly, his voice just above a whisper. "I'm really impressed by your passion for art. I think you should consider pursuing it more seriously." Emma's heart fluttered in her chest. Was he really saying this to her? Liam Parker, the millionaire doctor, was telling her to follow her dreams? She had to remind herself to breathe, to keep herself grounded. "Thank you," she managed, her voice barely audible. I'm trying to. It's just, life gets in the way sometimes. Liam nodded, understanding in his eyes. I get it. But sometimes, you have to take chances, Emma. You never know where they might lead. He paused, then added, I'd like to help you, if you're open to it. Maybe there's something we can work on together. Emma was speechless. What was happening? She had never imagined this kind of conversation in her wildest dreams. A part of her wanted to refuse, to tell him that she wasn't worthy of his help. But another part of her, the part that had always dreamed of being more than just a waitress, wanted to say yes, to let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, this was her chance. What do you mean? She asked, her voice shaky but full of curiosity. Liam smiled softly, then leaned in slightly. I have a connection with a few people who run galleries and artists' foundations. I can introduce you, help you get your work out there. But the decision is yours, Emma. I can't do this for you, but I can help you get started. His offer hung in the air between them, a lifeline thrown into the sea of uncertainty that had been Emma's life. She felt a swell of emotions, a mix of disbelief, gratitude, and fear. Was this really happening? Could she really take that first step toward her dream? For a moment, neither of them spoke. Emma stood there, staring at Liam, trying to process what he had just offered. It was everything she had ever wanted, but it also felt like too much. She was just a waitress. She wasn't ready for this kind of opportunity. But then, something inside her shifted. She thought about all the times she had let fear hold her back, all the moments she had chosen safety over possibility. This could be her chance to change everything. I'll do it, she said, her voice firmer than she expected. I want to try. I want to see where this could take me. Liam's eyes lit up with approval. Good, he said with a smile. You won't regret it, Emma. I'll make the introduction, and we'll go from there. Emma couldn't believe it. She had just agreed to something that could change her life, and she hadn't even fully processed it yet. Liam had given her a chance she had never dared to believe in. As he left the cafe, she stood there, still holding the empty coffee cup in her hands, unable to fully wrap her mind around the moment. This was the beginning of something new, something exciting. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she was on the verge of something real, something that wasn't defined by her past, her doubts, or her fears. That night, as she lay in bed, Emma thought about the steps ahead. She had no idea where this journey with Liam would lead, but for the first time, she felt like she was taking control of her own story. She was ready to embrace whatever came next, even if it meant stepping out of her comfort zone and into the unknown. The possibilities were endless, and for once, she wasn't afraid of them. The following week, Emma found herself standing in front of a sleek, modern art gallery, her heart pounding in her chest. She had barely slept the night before, her mind racing with a mix of excitement and doubt. Was she really ready for this? Was she ready to take that first step into a world that felt so far from the life she had always known? The gallery, with its clean lines and upscale atmosphere, seemed like a different world entirely. It wasn't just about the art. It was about everything that came with it. The connections, the opportunities, the people who lived in this world of wealth and creativity. But Liam had believed in her. He had made the introductions, and now here she was, standing at the entrance of something that could change her life forever. Emma took a deep breath and pushed the door open. The sound of soft music and the low murmur of conversation greeted her as she stepped inside. The walls were lined with beautiful paintings, each one capturing emotions and moments she could barely understand. But there was something else in the air, too, something she hadn't expected. The feeling of being part of this world, even just for a moment. She glanced around, unsure of where to go, until she spotted Liam across the room, talking to a group of people. When their eyes met, he smiled warmly and excused himself from the conversation. He made his way toward her, his presence commanding but not intimidating. Emma, Liam said as he reached her, his voice warm and welcoming. I'm glad you could make it. He gave her a quick hug, the kind of hug that felt like an old friend's embrace, not the kind of formal greeting she had expected. I'm really excited for you to see the event, and to meet some of the people I've been talking about. Emma smiled nervously, feeling the weight of the moment. Thank you for inviting me, she said, her voice a little shaky, but full of gratitude. I never thought I'd be here, honestly. It feels unreal. Liam chuckled, his eyes lighting up. It's always a little overwhelming at first, but you'll get used to it. And you belong here, Emma. You've got the talent. All you need is the chance to show it. Emma nodded, feeling a spark of hope she hadn't known existed. Liam's words, his belief in her, felt like a lifeline, pulling her out of the doubts that had held her back for so long. He led her through the crowd, introducing her to various people, artists, collectors, curators, and Emma did her best to keep her composure. She was out of her element, but Liam's presence seemed to calm her, making her feel like maybe, just maybe, she could fit in. He introduced her to a woman named Sarah, a gallery owner who had worked with some of the biggest names in the art world. "This is Emma," Liam said, his hand on her shoulder. "She's an incredible artist, and I think you should see her work." Sarah smiled warmly, her eyes scanning Emma's face as if weighing her words. "I'd love to," she said, her tone both professional and friendly. "I'm always looking for new talent. Let me know when you're ready to show me your pieces." Emma felt a flutter in her stomach. This was it, the opportunity she had been waiting for. But as Sarah walked away to mingle with others, Emma suddenly felt the weight of the situation. Was she really ready to show her work? Was it good enough? She had spent so many years doubting herself, and now she was expected to just step into this world of high expectations. What if they didn't like her art? What if they saw her as just another small-town girl trying to fit into something she didn't belong to? Liam must have sensed her unease, because he leaned in closer and spoke softly. "Don't worry about impressing anyone. Just be yourself. Your art speaks for itself." His words were simple, but they held so much truth. Emma had spent so long trying to be someone else, trying to fit into a mold that wasn't hers. But maybe it was time to stop pretending. Maybe it was time to embrace who she really was. Later that evening, Emma found herself standing in front of a small, quiet corner of the gallery, her eyes scanning the artwork displayed on the walls. It was an overwhelming experience, but also exhilarating. She had never thought she'd see her work displayed in such an environment, yet here she was, standing in the midst of it all. She hadn't been able to shake the feeling of doubt earlier, but now, as she stood surrounded by the art and the people who appreciated it, something inside her began to shift. She felt a quiet confidence growing within her. As the evening wore on, Liam found her again. He smiled when he saw her standing alone, her eyes focused on the art. "How are you feeling?" he asked, his voice soft, as if sensing the change in her. Emma turned to him, a genuine smile on her face. "I think I'm starting to feel like I belong here," she said, the words feeling strange but true. "I never thought I'd get this far, but I think I might actually have a shot at this." Liam smiled, his eyes sparkling. "I knew you would," he said simply. "And this is just the beginning, Emma. You've got the talent, the passion, and the heart. You just needed to believe in yourself." Emma stood there for a moment, the weight of his words sinking in. She had made it this far, not just because of Liam's help, but because of her own hard work and determination. She had finally taken the first step toward her dream, and it felt like nothing would ever be the same again. As the night ended, Emma walked out of the gallery with Liam by her side. She felt different, lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. For the first time, she felt like she was walking towards something real, something that wasn't just a fantasy. She was on her way to living the life she had always dreamed of, and nothing was going to stop her now. The days following the gallery event were a blur for Emma. Her heart was still racing from the excitement of the evening, and she couldn't shake the feeling of disbelief that had settled over her. She had always dreamed of becoming an artist, but she had never imagined that something like this could happen, an invitation to a gallery event, meeting influential people, and receiving such praise from Liam. It all felt like a dream, and yet, every moment of it was real. Liam had promised to help her, and as strange as it seemed, Emma was starting to believe that he meant it. For so long, she had told herself that she wasn't good enough, that her dreams were too far-fetched to ever come true, but now, things were different. Liam had given her a chance, and for the first time in her life, she felt like she was worthy of it. That weekend, Emma sat in front of her easel, staring at the blank canvas in front of her. It was strange, sitting there with her paints and brushes, knowing that she had the opportunity to pursue her art. But now that the moment had arrived, she was filled with doubt. Was she really good enough? Was her work worth showing to the world? She couldn't help but question herself. She had never been confident about her talent. In fact, most of her life had been spent doubting it. But now, with Liam's words echoing in her mind, she knew that it was time to stop second-guessing herself. She had a chance to prove to herself that she was capable of more, and she wasn't going to let it slip away. The next day, Liam called. "Emma, how are you doing?" he asked, his voice warm and friendly. "Have you had a chance to start working on some new pieces?" Emma hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to say. "I'm trying," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's just hard, you know? I've never really been sure of myself when it comes to my art." Liam paused on the other end of the line, and when he spoke again, his tone was gentle but firm. "Emma, I get it, but that's why you need to push through those doubts. You've got the talent, and you've got the passion. I know it's hard, but if you want this, you have to believe in yourself. I believe in you." His words were like a light in the dark, and for the first time, Emma felt a shift inside herself. Liam's belief in her was more than just encouragement. It was a lifeline. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his words settle in her heart. "You're right," she said, her voice stronger now. "I've been holding myself back for so long. I won't do it anymore." Over the next few weeks, Emma threw herself into her art with a passion she had never known before. She painted late into the night, her brushstrokes growing more confident with each passing day. She found herself losing track of time, so absorbed in the process that nothing else seemed to matter. The self-doubt that had once plagued her began to fade, replaced by a quiet confidence she had never experienced. For the first time, she was creating art for herself, not for anyone else. She no longer felt like an imposter in this world of creativity. She felt like she belonged. And then, one afternoon, Emma received a call from Liam. "I've got good news," he said, his voice upbeat. "I've spoken with Sarah, the gallery owner you met at the event. She wants to see some of your work. She's interested in possibly showcasing it in her next exhibition." Emma's heart stopped for a moment. Was this really happening? She could hardly believe it. "Are you serious?" she asked, her voice shaky with excitement. "I'm serious," Liam replied, his tone warm and encouraging. "This is your chance, Emma. You've worked hard, and it's time to share your art with the world. I'll help you set everything up. Just get your best pieces ready, and we'll make it happen." Emma's hands trembled as she set the phone down, the weight of the moment sinking in. This was it, the opportunity she had dreamed of. She had no more excuses, no more doubts. She had the chance to show the world who she was, to share her talent with people who believed in her. With Liam's support, she knew this could be the beginning of something incredible. As she prepared her artwork for the exhibition, Emma couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. Not too long ago, she had been stuck in a cycle of self-doubt, convinced that her dreams were out of reach. But now, with each brushstroke, she felt herself getting closer to the person she had always wanted to be. She was no longer just the quiet girl working at a cafe. She was an artist, ready to take the next step. And with Liam by her side, she knew that anything was possible. The night of the exhibition arrived, and Emma stood in front of the gallery, her heart pounding with excitement. As she walked inside, she was greeted by the same warm atmosphere she had felt before, the elegant art, the hushed conversations, the feeling that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Liam was there, waiting for her, and when their eyes met, she saw the pride in his expression. "You did it," he said softly. "You believed in yourself, and now your work is out there for everyone to see." As Emma took in the sight of her paintings displayed on the gallery walls, she felt a rush of emotions. This was it. This was her moment. She had worked hard, pushed through her fears, and now her art was finally being recognized. She was no longer just dreaming of a future as an artist. She was living it. And for the first time, she truly believed that anything was possible. The night of the exhibition was a whirlwind for Emma. She had never experienced anything like it, standing in front of a room full of people, her artwork on display for the world to see. She couldn't believe how much had changed in such a short time. Just a few months ago, she had been unsure of herself, doubting her talent, and now, here she was, an artist with her pieces hanging in one of the most prestigious galleries in the city. As people walked around, admiring her work, Emma felt a surge of pride. This was her dream coming true, and she had made it happen. But even more than that, she knew that she wasn't just here because of luck. She was here because she had taken a chance on herself, because she had chosen to believe that she could do something more. And it was all because of Liam. Liam had been by her side every step of the way, supporting her and encouraging her even when she doubted herself. As the evening went on, he found her in the corner of the gallery, watching her work being admired by strangers. He smiled at her, his eyes full of pride. "You did it, Emma," he said softly, stepping beside her. "I always knew you had it in you. Look at what you've accomplished." Emma's heart swelled with gratitude as she turned to him. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I never imagined I'd be here, showing my work like this." Liam chuckled softly, his gaze never leaving her. "You always had the talent, Emma. I just gave you the push you needed. The rest was all you." As they stood there together, watching people admire her work, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had found something she never thought she would, a passion for art, and a belief in herself that was stronger than anything she had ever felt before. And with Liam's help, she knew this was just the beginning. The world of art was vast, but she was ready to make her mark in it. Later that evening, as the exhibition came to a close, Liam pulled her aside. "There's something I need to tell you," he said, his voice more serious now. Emma looked at him, confused. "What is it?" she asked, her heart suddenly racing. Liam smiled, but it was different from the usual warmth she had grown used to. "I know this may be a bit forward, but I've been thinking about this for a while." Emma, Before he could finish his sentence, Emma's phone buzzed in her pocket, interrupting the moment. She pulled it out, her fingers trembling slightly as she read the message that popped up on the screen. It was from Sarah, the gallery owner. "I saw your work tonight, Emma. I'm really impressed. We'd like to feature you in our upcoming exhibition next month. Are you interested?" Emma's heart stopped for a moment as she read the message again, her mind struggling to process the words. This was everything she had dreamed of, everything she had worked for. A part of her wanted to scream in excitement, but another part of her, the part that was always cautious, told her not to get too ahead of herself. This was a big deal, and she didn't want to mess it up. "Emma." Liam's voice broke through her thoughts. She looked up at him, her eyes wide. "Did you see the message?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Liam nodded, his smile returning. "I saw it," he said. "This is it, Emma. This is the opportunity you've been waiting for. You've earned it." Emma felt a flood of emotions wash over her. Excitement, disbelief, and a deep sense of gratitude. She had come so far in such a short time, and now, she was being offered the chance to showcase her work in another exhibition. It felt surreal, but she knew deep down that this was her chance to truly take her art to the next level. "I can't believe this is happening," Emma said, her voice shaky with emotion. "I don't know what to say. This is everything I've wanted." Liam took her hand gently, his touch warm and reassuring. "You don't have to say anything, Emma. Just take the opportunity. Do what you've always wanted to do. And don't ever forget that you deserve this." Emma nodded, feeling a sense of clarity that she hadn't felt in a long time. This was her moment, her chance to shine, and she was ready. She wasn't going to let anything hold her back. With Liam's support, she knew she could achieve everything she had ever dreamed of. And for the first time, she felt truly confident in her future. As the night ended and the gallery cleared out, Emma stood with Liam, looking around at the empty space. The excitement of the evening was still buzzing in the air, and Emma knew that this was just the beginning. There was so much more to come, so many more opportunities waiting for her. And as she looked at Liam, she realized that she wasn't alone on this journey anymore. She had someone who believed in her, who saw her potential and was willing to help her reach it. For the first time in her life, Emma knew that her dreams were within reach, and she wasn't going to let them slip away. The weeks that followed were a blur of excitement and hard work for Emma. She had never been more focused, more driven. The opportunity to be part of another exhibition was a dream come true, and she poured everything she had into creating her best work yet. Each day, she found herself in front of her easel for hours, her hands covered in paint, her heart full of hope and fear. She couldn't afford to mess this up, and as she painted, she could feel the weight of the future on her shoulders. But at the same time, she knew this was her chance, her moment to prove not just to the world, but to herself, that she had the talent to make it in the art world. And Liam, as always, was there by her side, supporting her every step of the way. One afternoon, Emma found herself in the same cafe where she had worked for so long, but now she was there for a different reason. She was meeting Liam to go over the details of the upcoming exhibition. As she sat down, she noticed how much things had changed. The small cafe that had once felt like a cage A reminder of everything she hadn't yet achieved, now felt different. It felt familiar, comfortable, but there was a part of her that was ready to move beyond it. Liam walked in, his presence as calming as ever. He had a way of making everything feel like it would be okay, even when things felt overwhelming. "How's everything going?" he asked, sitting down across from her, his smile as warm as it had been when they first met. Emma smiled back, but there was an undercurrent of nervousness in her. "It's going well," she said, trying to sound confident, though her voice betrayed her. "I'm just a little worried about the exhibition. What if they don't like my work?" Liam leaned forward, his gaze steady. "Emma, you've already accomplished something incredible. You've made it this far, and you have the talent. Trust that." She nodded, though her doubts lingered. She had never been one to take compliments easily, always assuming that others were just being kind. But Liam's belief in her was different. He had seen something in her that she hadn't fully seen in herself yet. The days before the exhibition were a whirlwind of preparations. Emma finished her pieces, each one more personal than the last. She had poured herself into them, using the art to express all the things she had never said aloud. It was her way of sharing her story, her fears, and her dreams with the world. When the day of the exhibition arrived, she was ready. Or at least, she tried to convince herself that she was. The gallery was bustling with activity when Emma arrived. The atmosphere was electric, filled with people who had come to see the art, to talk to the artists, to make connections. Emma felt the nerves in her stomach twist, but she reminded herself of the promise she had made to herself. She wasn't going to let fear hold her back. Not this time. As she stepped into the gallery, her heart beat faster. The walls were lined with stunning pieces, and she could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. This was her time, her chance to show the world who she was. She could hear the conversations around her, the hum of excitement, but all she could focus on was her artwork, hanging on the walls for everyone to see. Liam found her not long after she arrived, and he was just as encouraging as he had been throughout their entire journey together. "You look amazing," he said with a proud smile. "Your work is incredible, Emma. This is the beginning of something great." "Thank you," Emma said, her voice shaking just a little. "I don't know what to expect, but I'm ready. Whatever happens, I know I've given it everything I have." The night was a blur of faces, conversations, and compliments. People admired her work, asked questions, and expressed interest in her pieces. It was everything she had dreamed of, and more. But as the evening wore on, Emma began to feel a sense of calm settle over her. This was real. She was here. Her work was being seen, and it was being appreciated. The fear she had felt earlier in the day was fading, replaced by a quiet confidence. She had made it. By the end of the evening, Sarah, the gallery owner, approached her with a smile. "Emma," she said, her voice warm and sincere. "I've seen your work, and I'm really impressed. I'd love to talk about showing more of your pieces in the future. You've got a lot of potential." Emma's heart skipped a beat. "Really?" she asked, trying to hold back the overwhelming surge of emotions that flooded her. This was it. This was the moment she had been waiting for. Sarah nodded. "Absolutely. I'd love to work with you. Let's make this happen." As the night came to a close, Emma found herself standing outside the gallery, her heart still racing. She couldn't believe it. It had all happened so fast, but she had done it. She had faced her fears, trusted in herself, and now she had the recognition she had always dreamed of. Liam walked up beside her, his smile proud as ever. "You did it, Emma," he said, his voice full of admiration. "I knew you could." Emma looked at him, her heart full of gratitude. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "I never could have done this without you." Liam's smile softened. "You did it all, Emma. You believed in yourself. That's what made all the difference." As they walked together into the night, Emma realized that this was just the beginning. The world was wide open, and for the first time, she felt like she had the courage to step into it. Her dreams were no longer out of reach, they were right in front of her. And with Liam by her side, she knew she was ready for whatever came next. Months passed, and Emma's life transformed in ways she had never imagined. The exhibition had opened doors for her, and opportunities began to flow in. More galleries reached out, more collectors showed interest in her work, and her name slowly became known in the art world. But through it all, one thing remained constant: Liam. He had always been there for her, not just as a mentor but as a friend, someone who had believed in her when no one else had. With his support, Emma felt like she could conquer anything. They spent more time together, not just working on her art, but sharing their lives. They had long conversations about their dreams, their fears, and everything in between. Emma found herself growing in ways she never thought possible, both as an artist and as a person. One evening, as Emma sat in the studio, working on a new piece, Liam walked in, his usual calm demeanor. Present, but there was something different about him that evening. He stood by the door for a moment, watching her, his expression unreadable. "I've been thinking," he began, his voice softer than usual. "You've come so far, Emma. You've built something amazing, and I couldn't be more proud of you." Emma looked up from her canvas, wiping a streak of paint from her cheek. She smiled. "Thanks, Liam. It's all still so surreal. I keep waiting for someone to tell me it's a dream." Liam stepped closer, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "It's not a dream, Emma. You've earned everything that's coming your way." He paused for a moment before continuing, his eyes locking onto hers. "But it's not just your art that has amazed me. It's your strength, your courage to follow your dreams despite all the obstacles. And I've realized something." Emma's heart skipped a beat. "What's that?" she asked, setting down her paintbrush, her gaze locked on him. Liam took a deep breath, and for the first time, Emma saw a vulnerability in his eyes, something she hadn't noticed before. "I've realized that I don't want to be just your mentor or your friend. I've grown to care about you, Emma, more than I ever thought possible." Emma's heart raced. She had always felt a connection with Liam, but hearing him say it out loud was a different thing entirely. She took a moment to process his words, her mind swirling with thoughts. She had never imagined this moment would come, but now that it had, she wasn't sure how to react. She had always been cautious, afraid of taking the wrong step, of letting her emotions get in the way of her goals. But with Liam, something felt different. She could feel the weight of his words, the honesty in his voice. "Liam," Emma began, her voice barely above a whisper, I care about you too. I've always felt like I could be myself with you. But I didn't know if I was ready for this. I've been so focused on my career, on proving myself, that I didn't know if I could open myself up to someone else." Liam nodded, understanding. "I get it," he said softly. "But I want you to know that you don't have to prove anything to me. I believe in you, Emma, not just as an artist, but as a person, and I want to be here with you, every step of the way." The air between them felt charged, and Emma's heart pounded in her chest. This wasn't just about art anymore. It was about something deeper, something she hadn't expected to find. She took a step closer to Liam, her eyes searching his for any sign that this was real. And in that moment, she knew. She knew that this was the start of something beautiful. The same passion and commitment she had put into her art, she could now give to this relationship. And for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to embrace it. With a soft smile, Emma reached out, taking Liam's hand in hers. "I think I'm ready, Liam," she said, her voice full of emotion. "I'm ready to take the next step, not just in my art, but with you. I've spent so long being afraid of what might happen, but I realize now that I can't let fear hold me back anymore." Liam's smile widened, his eyes full of tenderness as he gently squeezed her hand. "You're amazing, Emma," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm so proud of you, and I'm so glad that we're in this together." As they stood there, hand in hand, Emma knew that this was just the beginning of a new chapter in her life. With Liam by her side, she felt like she could face anything. The world had changed, and so had she. She had gone from a shy, uncertain girl to a confident artist, ready to take on whatever came next. And now, she was ready to explore love, to see where this new journey would lead her. No longer was she the person who held herself back. She was someone who had embraced her potential, and with that, she knew she could achieve everything she had ever dreamed of, both in art and in life. As the night stretched on, Emma couldn't help but feel grateful for everything that had brought her here, her art, her determination, and, most of all, Liam. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure. She was ready to face it with an open heart, a new sense of purpose, and the love of the person who had helped her find herself.